Okay, good evening, everyone. It is 5:31, Wednesday, May 17th. This is Councilor McBride calling the Property Reuse Committee to order. For roll call, we have Bob Frink, Larry Dunn, and Hal Zod in attendance. I did get an email from Scott Goodrich indicating he was not able to make it tonight. As far as the others, I'm not sure. Actually, Scott Westervelt is away out of town on vacation, so I don't know if he's making it. So we'll go from here. So roll call, we went over. Buff here has just arrived as well. First order of business is public comment. I don't see anyone online. So we'll move to the next item of business, which is communications. I have not had any formal communications. I haven't received anything. Has anyone else received anything? Next order of business, approval of minutes. I did hand out a copy of the minutes to everybody for the last 3 meetings. I asked Scott Westerville, he took the liberty of completing that. So you haven't had time to review it. So if you want to review it at some point during tonight's meeting, if you're comfortable with making a motion to approve it, later on in the meeting, we can do so. Larry, I did send to you via email the copy of them, so you have it as well. So we'll skip over that. You're welcome. We'll skip over that for now. If we could remember to try to bring that back up later, if you could remind me, that would be helpful as well. The next order of business is to get back to the town-owned property reuse evaluation process. And there's 2 items. There's the policy, which we spoke about previously, and then some of the RP requirements. And Bob Frink did send some information that I included in the package, and he had provided to me earlier and asked to present some of that information, and it was overlooked, I think, since he provided it. So might as well take this time now to present some of the information you'd like to speak. Okay, is that now a good time?
Very good. Yeah. Okay, so the spreadsheet, if you have it, is from my take on looking at several things. One is the lessons learned from the Mystic Education Center project that I kind of.
Oh, thank you.
I'm getting printed.
Okay.
From a portion, yes, from Mystic Oral Education Center. I have that, you've given it to me.
Yeah.
Portia Bordelon, Councilor Portia Bordelon is present as well. She has now joined me.
Yes.
Just for a heads up, I have been in the attendees since 5:30, just.
Okay, so lessons, and plus a long career in project management, okay, in various places. So the left is the items or milestones I listed related to the RFP process, as I envisioned it anyway. Middle column is what the TC actions, town council actions were on each of those critical steps, and then just some notes on the right. So it goes through formal visioning, okay, like what's going on at Claude Chester right now. I would consider that to be formal visioning, as opposed to William Seeley, where there was, as far as I know, no visioning. But you know what I mean? Right. So formal would be like Claude Chester, where you have consultants, you've got some pretty decent sketches, you've had questionnaires, that sort of thing. Then from that, and we have this somewhat from the visioning, you come to an RFP, no RFP decision. You know, what does the vision involve? And do we need an RFP for it, or do it in-house, or is it do nothing? Then,
Sorry to interrupt. Can we put it up on the screen as well?
I don't know. You want me to email it to you?
Or me, yeah, or me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to comment, Ian Thomas is present as well.
So the in terms of the formal visioning process, I mean, the staff does most of this work, and the town council approves it based on the staff's work meeting their expectations. So the RFP, the town council would agree with an RFP, you know, an RFP decision, move forward with one or not. Then a public engagement plan which, as you call public communication, public engagement together is, and some notes on the bottom of the page. I put some notes there. Whether there's an RFP or no RFP is subjects like when and how is the public, including the neighbors, informed? Public hearings, outreach seminars, etc. Any special engagement treatment for the neighbors. How are the results of public engagement disposition? In other words, now you've got all this information from the public. What do you do with it? What needs to be kept secret and why? When and why is it justified? This comes from my observation of the MEC project, that there was a presentation on November 2018, and there was pretty much silence for 14 months. You know, which is unacceptable to me. But I know there needs to be confidentiality and secrecy, but town council needs to establish when is it needed and why is it justified? And really, especially, when is secrecy no longer justified? When can you go public with everything or whatever? So that's the public engagement plan. Town council established, then the town council provides oversight as the public engagement plan is implemented, to make sure that it's implemented correctly. Then there's the RFP community requirements section, which is based on the visioning and any input from town council, staff, etc. But the council would approve the community requirements section. Establishment of the proposal review team. Town council would approve the who's on the team, make suggestions to whatever, and approve the scoring criteria. And when I'm saying approve, I mean it's discuss and get into and be happy with. Then the town manager issues the RFP based on town council authorization. That's a major step, authorizing the issue the RFP as it is. Now I've got step 10 as a repeat of step 8 on mine, so I'm going to jump to. I hope I don't get the same copy as you. But my 11 is choose a proposal winner. Okay, so town council approves the proposal winner. I know we've talked about that. How to do that. We need to know all the submittals, whatever. But then we move into the contract assessment, contract phase. If there is going to be an RFP, we've got a winner. So now it's contract negotiations, whatever. But there should be a risk assessment plan to identify problem areas, and I'll say it before the local newspaper does. You know, it's really intended to do that. You know, you could do a standard of course, you know, the purchasing should have already done that. It's I guess person financially capable, whatever, but just a Google assessment, but anything out there that might be, you might have to defend, you know, and might have trouble defending. Contract termination methods and consequences. So the council should fully understand and approve how the contract is terminated and along the way and what the consequences are at various steps along a termination trail, whatever. So, you know, we heard the term preferred developer. For the life of me, I don't know what that means in legal terms. You know, is it, how do you unprefer a preferred developer? Is that possible? You know, or is it meaningless? I don't know. Then in the contract or in this project, there needs to be status reporting as the project proceeds. And the town council needs to put that in somewhere that we want to hear status reports of what's going on as the project proceeds. Then, those are in the contract. Those would be elements of the contract. Then you have the town council authorizes the manager to sign a contract. Then the town council would react to the periodic status reports as necessary. You know, might not all be good news, might be good news, might be bad news, but there will be likely decision points as the project proceeds. And then maybe most importantly, but when it's all over, validate the project process and do a lessons learned. And how do you do the next one better? Where do we make mistakes? You know, that sort of thing. So with that, this is really, yeah. What I envisioned is taking this is a list, so we would pass that over to. I'll give this to you, and I don't know if you can,
Electronically, so we can put it up.
I'll email it to. you. Okay. Is take these steps and make a manual out of it, okay? And,
For the town council,
pardon?
for the town council.
Well, for the town council and staff.
Okay.
So we're all singing the same language, you know, we're all, and, you know, we're creating and sustaining corporate knowledge, how things work, how we do things, using the same language. So I didn't do the whole thing. Let me get this out. What's your email, Laura?
Gothier for Groton.
Oh, gee, that's right. Okay. Okay, it's coming. Hold on. So what I wanted to do, and I talked to Dave about, is just, does our process cover these things? Somewhere, where are these things done? Let's put it that way. Report documents.
Coming.
Wait a minute, let me see if I can. I got a lot of things here called the same thing. Here it comes. There you go. No, you get it. All right, so I didn't get through all my, I didn't want to take the time. I got through to number 6, community requirements section, but we'll wait for Portia to get a copy.
Okay. Did you?
Or you
put-
got it on, you got it up there.
It's up there.
Okay, all right, so. Yeah,
I'm
so this
good.
is a list. Yeah, so this is a list of items, and so from the list, a manual. Training manual, corporate knowledge, whatever. But a description of the step. And a description of the town council action, the way I had it when I did this 3 months ago, 2 months ago, okay. You through a committee, now, I don't know, you know. But document the how-to, you know, step by step, corporate knowledge, training.
So here's what I'm going to ask is, how do you see this being materially different than the TOP process, what we just went through, and the RFP policy that we haven't gotten to yet?
Okay. The RFP policy. If I look the last page here. This is a lot more detail. I'm reading step 4, the approval of initial responsibility. Wait a minute. Town staff shall create a request for step 3. The town craft staff shall create a request for proposal which will consider the information provided by the TOP committee. That's it.
Right,
Okay.
and then when I say RFP policy, what I'm talking about is this appendix A
Okay.
from the state.
Yeah, okay, so I looked at that this afternoon, and that. When it looks to me like purchasing. Document for purchasing department. I didn't get RFP out of this.
So this is taken from the state for the RFP process, specifically state RFPs, how they do it, and then I tailored it to what we're doing here in the town.
Okay, so I'll go look at this. There's definitions. Then there's more definitions. Section purchasing objective. The objectives of the purchasing division. Okay, good to have.
I don't think we're looking at. This is a purchasing manual. So that is current, the town has as a purchasing manual.
Yeah.
This might be not in the current agenda, but from last meeting's agenda, it's called Appendix A, request for proposal. This is the big thing I
Okay.
put together a while.
Based on the thing that's on the screen, what number are we on? I'm a little lost. I apologize.
We're not on any particular number. I'm asking Bob what
Okay.
his document here, how it's
All right.
different than
So-
the report we've already
Okay.
looked at.
Thank you.
All right, so we talks about competitive procurement, okay. Non-competitive ethical conduct, statement of financial interest. From town employees, anybody else, ethics, confidential documentation of the procurement process. Okay, keeping everything we do, okay, got that. RFP must include required minimum qualification of future awardee. Tasks, samples of qualifications, format for proposals. Vary from main proposal required format. The outline should prescribe not only with the documents. Well, so that's format. It talks about the format, the order in which things are done, not necessarily what the things are. Yeah, what proposal? Submission requirements, meeting the deadline.
Yes, so that is a how-to, and you get your direction from the town council after we've come through the TOP in the process.
Can I interject here? Can we switch gears? The reason I'm saying this because the appendix A piece, we're likely not to get to tonight, I don't think.
To what?
The appendix A piece, which is the RFP process, which I think is what you're referring to now.
Yeah.
I think we're still working on the 5 or 6 pages that get us right to up to appendix A.
Okay,
Because appendix A is going to be a deep dive. I think what we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was getting through a draft document to get something to the council. But to inform them that the appendix A is still being worked on. If that's how I saw it.
Right, and I would agree with that, and because I think also we discussed not throwing too much at them at the same time. Leaving some work for the committee that gets established from the process to continue working on once we get through the
Right.
first flake.
okay,
So I think with regards to your RFP process, I think everything we're talking about here is up through where you start to number 6. We're still working on 1 through 5. On your,
I like this, what you put together, Bob, because I think this is a really nice digest of all of the points of public engagement. That's kind of what it, like, at what point, it's like when we touch the process,
well, for those steps, it's public engagement, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's all the steps, eventually.
eventually,
Yeah.
more to follow, yeah. But I like this because it's much more digestible than that.
Right, yeah,
I think
Okay.
it could serve a purpose I think it's great. And I think it could serve a purpose as condensing down, hard language, and it could be part of the final report.
As you say, 1 through 5. That's the total
yes,
process.
and that's what we're still trying to work through, I
And
think.
if anything, maybe that's one thing, something like this we've marked up saying, here's the total. There's the pro after that.
I think we could do is embed some of the 1 through 5 that you have here in paragraphs into this.
yeah, right, so really just two overviews. I just want to make sure we cover the bases on the lessons learned from Mrs. Education Center at the least, that risk assessment plan. Somebody, please do a Google,
Well, that's all later, right?
little things like that.
Yeah,
No.
I think that's
Yeah.
included in the link.
How do we terminate and what are the consequences for the town council to know before they jump off, say, yes, we agree to this contract. How do we end it if we needed to?
And that should be all in the RFP appendix A detail,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Once we get working
do-
through that.
I do think there's some great points here. I just think we need to get through the actual draft up through Appendix A, like Councilor McBride stated, and that way we can get a draft done. And then Appendix A would be a separate piece, which I think these points are very valid.
I agree. Moving on. Looking for your, so that came in the agenda.
That one just happened to be in last week's agenda. I don't see it.
Yeah, I just noticed it wasn't on this week's. I don't know.
And I realize now that I did not email out to everybody what we worked on last time. So that's my mistake. I have it in front of me in the Google Doc, but I didn't email it around for it to be incorporated into,
You
This
want to
agenda.
email it to us?
I can email it to you now. But can you remind me where we left?
We left off in conversation, you mean?
Mhm.
We left off, we were talking about the RFP process and who was gonna be involved in
Is there a number?
there. 5 on disposition of town owned,
So we're still up here.
I believe so, but we can do that. But before we jump, sir, you all set, Bob?
Pardon?
Are you all set?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for the time.
All right, so let's, no, I appreciate your work on that, and we'll definitely include some of that as we move forward. So I want to back up a little bit. Our original plan was to try to get something into May 23rd to the council, which would need to be, would need to be completed by the end of the week if that's possible. My original intention was to get something there, so that way it could be on the agenda for possible approval the following week, but I understand that first June meeting of the council may not be held for various reasons. So I don't know if there's much of a rush to get everything done this week. So I just want to toss it out there. I mean, hopefully we can get something accomplished, but I don't think it's mandatory that we do. Following that, I did do some research and I did some deep dives and I thought long and hard about where we're at. So I want to provide some thoughts, and some of you may not agree with my thoughts, but I want to bring them out there just as share to present where I'm at. I read through this document in great detail compared to the one that we had previously, read through comments that were given to us. Watched the tape with the council that didn't go so well. And I guess what I'm just going to say, to be open and honest, I'm concerned that some of the things the direction we're heading in may I'm trying to get something that's passable to the council to go through. And I'm wondering if we're going down the same path we went before. They're not being as inclusive and including every one of the topics, and this may not go forward. And I guess what I'm saying is I specifically remember reading some of John Burt's comments when he said he wanted staff involvement here. So I have questions and concerns on, are we removing them from this process?
No.
Because I guess the question is, I was told, and I think I remember hearing, that's their job, that's what they do. And I'm wondering if by us, I'm all for this taupe. I think we all agree, but I'm wondering if we should consider having some town involvement to bring something to the taupe for review. And by that, what I'm saying is, this taupe, we're meeting quarterly, we're doing everything, but we don't have anything where the town can do all they go to Boston, they go to these things, they go to these places, they work with developers. There's nowhere for them to bring what they've done and what they've researched to this committee. Unless I'm missing something. So I'm worried that this is going to face roadblocks, because I think overall, what I thought our mission was to ensure the town community involvement is very well involved in this process. And the way I'm reading this is we're excluding, or it looks like we're excluding the town's ability to bring stuff to the taupe, because it starts with the taupe. I don't know if that's
So wouldn't
making
it make
sense.
sense? So wouldn't it make sense to change one sentence in the whole language as the community can bring forth? You can just put town staff can bring forth. That would be one sentence that would
Yeah.
fix all of that.
Isn't
But
town
again-
staff still on the tote?
But again, I understand we want something that's going to be digestible and passable, but I also want to send something that is actually fulfilling the needs of what was not there. So I caution that we take away too much, because if we're sending, and the goal of this was to present something, if it doesn't go through, then we put the best foot forward to send the best project forward. So, but I do think changing that one line that says town staff can as well could fix that without going back to the whole document.
Okay, thank you, Portia. Bob had his hands up.
Yeah, I don't know if this is what you're getting at, but to me, it's the towns, when we're talking about the use of town property reuse, it's town's input first. Okay, what does the town, what do the citizens want to do with it first? Then, then the private sector comes in. Don't bring me in a private sector guy before we've talked to the citizens on what do you want there. Me.
I guess my question is, sorry, go ahead.
So I'll say a couple things. One, town staff is ex officio on the TOP. They can come and talk about it whenever they want. The language therein says town council can ask the TOP to begin the review process. And it does allow for private developers to come to the TOP. So all the staff need to say is, hey, you really want this, bring it to the TOP. I think that the concern is covered, is my point. I hear it, but I think that we've addressed it.
I don't know if private developers go to the toll, do they?
They do.
Do they do that?
They do.
Usually-
It's a right of-
I mean, I know,
I mean, they-
we call town manager.
Think Eric Goodman. Eric Goodman is a resident of this community. He has every right as a resident of the community to come up and say, hey, I also own a construction business and I, as a resident of this
Sure,
community and a
correct,
developer, think
correct. Yeah,
we should
yeah,
do
you're
this.
right, you're right.
Right, but isn't, because I did some research, because I'm struggling with this. I reached out to ODP in New London, I reached out to Norwich Community Development Corporation. My thought is, I'm struggling with their job is to go out and go to these seminars, go to these things and try to solicit developers, right?
Mhm.
Are we stripping them of that ability?
Okay,
No.
for private property, for other property, let's say for town-owned property, if property belongs to the people. Again, people first, town citizens decide first, or in conjunction with.
Well, citizens are still involved. I'm saying if
Private property,
Right.
and then
Let me-
that's a different thing.
Let me ask.
So
you
I don't
this.
think, I don't, I
I'm
don't-
sorry, Portia.
oops, sorry.
Can I just
go
contextualize
ahead.
this question?
yeah, go ahead,
What
go.
is, when town developers, when town staff go to these expos, to
Mhm.
these developers, shouldn't they be leading from the community and what their input was to begin with in the first place, as opposed to trying to come up with their own thing and then argue it to us?
well, they should know what the community,
Exactly, and that starts at the top. So the town staff would
Right.
say, hey, we've got these properties on our roll, we've got this expo coming up. I need you to give me some suggestions so I can target the right developers to bring to our community. I see
I
it
can
as a
agree.
completely symbiotic relationship.
I mean, I can
I
see what you're
agree.
saying, but I can also see it. Go ahead, Portia.
There was
I
none of
also
that.
agree, and I also feel that the town staff going to these things, just like a kid going off to college and being recruited, they're going to report back to their family. I mean, or whoever is overseeing, who's paying, whoever. So it's not to say that they're not going to go out to these recruitments, and if they find a great deal or a great opportunity that was not presented, they still would be reporting back. That doesn't change that just because of the way this is worded. They're still doing that. Great ideas are driven by everybody. So in fact, yes, they should have in their mind what we are looking for certain properties, what the town vision is by the community constituents and the TOP committee. But yes, also bringing back some great ideas or opportunities that they may stumble upon when out recruiting. So I think it's a combination. That's a no-brainer.
Great. All right, thank you.
Well, at Clodchester, we did none of that. We did it totally citizens first, right? There was nobody came in that we know of, right? And William Sealy, the complete opposite. It's gonna be apartments and you like it or love it, At Owings School, they visioned for years. There was multiple five or so years of visioning there. I don't know what's gonna happen with the rest of it, but to me, if it's town-owned property, we get the citizens involved, the neighbors, what does the community want there? Then you can talk, and then you can get ideas from the outside.
Yeah, and that's how I see this process.
If it's
happening.
private property we're working with, that's a whole different thing. A total different animal.
One of the criticisms of some people that stated, a lot of our, no offense, sometimes town staff, they don't live here. So, what they see as their vision for the town, it has to be driven by who? Who's making those decisions if the constituents aren't that live here? Right. And it has to be. I mean, town manager can come and go. Elected officials can come and go. There's gotta be, the only thing that's tried and true is the taxpayer resident that is from the town. That is it. Everything else is moving parts. So it's so important that the vision is driven by the people, for the people.
I have to say that the planning staff, I want to give credit to the planning commission at this point, but planning staff, they are pros and they are completely invested.
Yes, yeah.
It's good for the town.
Right.
Frankly, I think what happened with the Claude Chester was because the planning staff realized the benefit of let's aim in this direction and not try to solicit a bunch of stores to go there. It was a quiet thing on the side. Nobody knew about it, but I think we were kind of led this way of saying, obviously, it's the best place to extend the field.
I know for a fact that this had been lobbied before Gloucester even was shut down, they knew it was on, but there was there's a concentrated group of folks who wanted this, and I think after the debacle of MEC, it was easiest for town staff to go this direction and call it a win.
Absolutely.
But I, for one, I am not actually in favor of the current Gloucester vision, and I don't feel that there was enough proactive outreach to get more ideas for it.
Well, that's why we're here. So I guess my point,
However, I think that there's a practicality involved that unless the TOP comes together and does their shtick for every property the next week, then the town staff going out there trying to solicit people won't have anything at their disposal. So the reality is they might have to come back with somebody who has an idea. And among the TOP, say, hey, here's the ideas that you have. And among those ideas, by the way, is a guy who's got a check who wants to do this, which is.
that's kind of what I'm thinking of, is I feel like we lost that element of the staff doing their work, bringing to the TOP.
I didn't see and it lost it there. It's not stated way up front.
Well, so
It's there.
here's how I'm like thinking forward. So the TOP gets implemented, right? We already know that our planning and economic development staff are going out and they already know the facts of the TOP properties. They don't yet have the TOP advisory committee's recommendations. They already have a general sense of that. But now they have a process to point developers to. And I think that's really promising. I think that's something that came out of what Eric Goodman said was, hey, now I know. Now I know what to do with my idea. I know where to go. I know who to talk to. I know what to expect. So that's good. And then also think TOP's going to be meeting. We have very few properties on that underutilized or unused list to go through and do this whole process of visioning, essentially, right? It's public engagement and visioning. So we can do both, right? Like we can walk and chew gum. The planning staff can still shop around the properties that need to be developed, and the TOP committee can still start soliciting and doing that kind of public visioning. And somewhere in the middle will marry a developer to a property.
I also,
It does help. Just one second. It does help. But I guess my concern is I read through this on my own. I'm trying to think of it. I feel like that's missing. What you just said is missing from this, that it doesn't, this reads as the TOP is taking over. And I think I'm worried that the perception of this group may read that through here, which isn't correct. I get that. We're not trying to take away the town. We're just we're really trying to implement a process that there's a review of what the town desires. That's what we're trying to do.
so a simple sentence says, a simple sentence of stating that town staff, which is, I mean, basically stating the obvious, right? Or, you know, they go out and they're recruiting. But whatever they bring in, they're no different than a community member. They're bringing back their idea, just like if I say, hey, I want restrooms at this park, I'm no different than anybody else. So they would be the same process of recruitment. They'd be bringing it to the TOP. Their vision, their idea, what they saw out there when they were recruiting, they just have to bring that forward. So it's on the table for discussion for the constituents at large. I don't understand what the big deal.
It's not a big deal. I'm just worried, you know, again, I know your thought is we're going to present what we present, and if it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass. I'm trying to say, let's present the most passable thing that achieves what the town needs. And I think we're
So
missing.
put that
component. So I don't know if
sentence
you
in
can
there.
embed that.
If we embed that sentence in here saying that the town staff will continue to recruit and bring forward ideas,
Yes, absolutely.
that's
All
fine
right,
with
so we'll
me.
move.
Bring it forward to just add the sentence and then we move on.
In addition to the vision, we're always going to do vision.
Yes. Okay, so I'm sorry, I dwelled on that for a few minutes. It was concerning to me that I was missing that. Okay, so everybody has a copy of the minutes here. I guess
my concern is that my concern is that the same people where there's been no vision and no oversight and no process are concerned that they want certain things in there. And that's great. And that's why we're trying to do this, but we need to make sure it's done in a way that's actually going to benefit the town. That's my only thing.
And I think this is planning and zoning is moving forward and the TOP's moving forward, and they're both working together for the betterment of the town. I mean, that's kind of the thought. So I think we're good. So I don't know, does anyone, I just want to quickly say that I sent the minutes out to Larry and Council Bordelon, does everybody else, have you had a chance to review them yet?
No, no.
Okay, well, we'll wait. I just don't want to forget it by the end of the meeting because I did find today, these are supposed to be done within a week. So I'm a little late. I don't want to get in trouble.
Were there any other comments that you got from reviewing the video that we haven't yet adjudicated?
No, I have some notes here, but I don't think.
And
Nope, I
if
think
any of
we're
these other
meeting-
people, any of these other people that are reaching out with comments or suggestions, I mean, I welcome them to this meeting. It's been open and transparent, so if there's stuff, I mean, sometimes it's easier to understand when it actually comes from the person making the recommendation, because then we can ask them questions. So it'd be nice if folks that have these changes or worried about anybody being boxed out, come and speak on behalf of that, so that they can be part of the process. Versus going through a second channel.
Yeah, and that was my own thought. That wasn't provided to me by anybody. The only other question I had, and I think we talked about it, but as I reviewed this, it wasn't clear. And I think, I forgot, we talked about, we're forming the TOP and they're forming the PRUC. What was the reasoning why we're not being overlapped the same? It seems like we're creating a whole other committee. And I know we mentioned it, but I can't recall.
So,
The same members on there. I think you brought it up, it's the same members.
Except the liaisons are, they're ex officio, and part of that is to avoid, or I think maybe we completely removed them. Scroll up here.
And I guess my reasoning is, I'm trying to be less complicated for when this goes to the council. And is this gonna be more complicated if we have two committees?
Remember, one's an advisory committee to put its arms around committee input
Mhm.
community input. And then I see the other one as being a creature of the town council to do the work of the RFP, right? So one is visioning, essentially doing that community input step. And then the second one is doing the actual RFP work. And if we look here on number 3, this is what we came out of that last meeting for membership. So it's chaired by a town councilor appointed by the mayor, an additional 2 councilors with minority representation. You have 3 RTM members, so we're up to 6. A town manager or their designee as an ex officio member, and up to 2 additional. So a minimum requirement of 7 individuals. And what this does is that it allows us to have a feasible size that's big enough to do the work, but small enough that you're not too worried about a quorum. We have the ability to add ad hoc members, as we currently do. And we also removed all of those planning, zoning, wetlands, blah, 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 staff, so that there isn't a conflict of interest between them potentially working on an RFP or evaluating an RFP and then it getting before their committee. And it's not really appropriate for them to be then voting on a proposal or voting down a proposal that they didn't want in the first place. So it eliminates that kind of conflict of interest for them. They've done their part in helping with the visioning with the TOP advisory committee. And now we're letting really the elected members and the staff do the work of making a document to ship out to developers.
Can you just scroll, what's one, just? Okay, follow, okay, town council direct.
So that's the breakdown that I see between the TOP advisory committee that's more the kumbaya community engagement. And then the other is accountability for town staff and elected members to create a document to get the developers.
I see the point of, I just concerned that it could be construed as complicated, and would there be a simpler way to say the TOP excluding the committees? I'm trying to make this simple so it gets.
Here's my thought. In all cases, the town staff does, citizens approve. You know, citizens provide input and approve,
Mhm.
but the town staff does the work. Okay, they're the professionals,
Yeah, absolutely.
provide input and approve.
Well, the problem is more oversight, as I recall, right?
Well, they're making sure the RFP has what the TOP wants in it.
Right. So the
And
TOP
the
came
town
up with
council.
all the stuff.
Not what the TOP wants in it, what the town council.
Town council, which is-
Sometimes watching that the TOP make sure it's, yeah.
the TOP came up with just a report. It comes up with a report. Here's all the knowledge.
I think Bob
Uh,
Frank's summary was really good.
But the PRUC
Right.
is doing
Thank you.
a slightly different
Thank you.
job. But as I kind of agree, they were already complaining, what, you're coming up with another commission.
That's what I'm worried about.
Now, we're gonna come up with 2 extra commissions. And if some way we can state it to say, it's still the TOP, but it's just these limited people with these limited roles.
So we're talking about restructuring the TOP. Here's how I'm hearing this. We're talking about restructuring the TOP to be under the PRUC, right? Because, and then saying we're stripping out we're giving it 2 functions, right? We're giving the PRUC now, the RFP writing function and the advisory
They don't get
function.
the writing. Remember, they're not gonna write.
Town's right.
The
Well,
town's writing.
it's at the subcommittee of the PRUC, but yes.
It's just the taupe up front.
Right.
And the taupe, why can't the taupe just be involved here? The taupe minus the members.
It can be. We can write it that way.
Well, what would be the reasoning we couldn't? I mean, again, I'm just trying to make it,
I foresee there being heartburn of being told I'm on this committee, but only sometimes, or I can only do some work. I mean, I have no dog in either fight.
I'm also worried of getting enough people.
7 people.
Well, 7 plus the other 7.
Well, that's a total problem. And that's another reason to separate it, right? Is so that
It's a lot of people. Because I'm with you on this.
We can
I think those people up there are not going to buy 2 separate committees.
I agree.
And then we'll end up. back
I
there.
would also
As
think.
much as in an ideal world, absolutely. If this was the city of Philadelphia, I'd say, of course. But we're not, and we just can't get that many people.
And people that are interested and knowledgeable and want to put the time in. If they're putting the time in on the taupe, I'm thinking they may want to put the time in here. If they're already involved in the community involvement,
That's right.
they're,
Yeah, we can combine them. There's nothing to say that we can't. It's just a reordering of numbers, and I can present that at the next meeting.
The roles will change in the RFP process.
well, I'm throwing this out here for thought. I mean, I'm not trying to mandate. I'm just trying to, it just makes sense to me to that.
The second committee to me was the RFP review team.
Right.
That's what we used to call the RFP review team.
That's later.
You form it up, and it lives for 6 weeks and it's over.
That's all.
That's a second committee. That's a separate committee, but this is like,
It's intense.
Well,
It's a work group, I believe, is the FOIable French term.
I'm hearing 2 different things. The PRUC is not writing
Right,
the RFP. Staff is writing.
right.
All the PRUC does is act as an advisory and oversight. And when that RFP is done, it's done.
but it's overview and oversight is to make sure the RP is following what the taupe wants. So why can't it just be the taupe?
I agree with you.
Yeah, that's fine. We sell one committee that does all of these many things.
And then they're up to speed too. They know what the taupe wants. They're taupe.
They are dope. And you're right, it would be many of the same people doing both.
I think
But that's to that end. Part of the issue is that we have a same few select individuals doing everything and it becoming a little too insular.
But this is a group of 7 or 9. How big is the taupe?
This is 7, the taupe I think is also like 9.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a pretty good diverse group.
But you're saying that you think they're already going to be the same people, whereas if we kept them 2 separate committees, it's more likely for it to be different people. So 15 people or 16 people as opposed to the same 7 or 9.
Right, I think it's gonna be difficult to find 16 people that are gonna be able to dedicate the time. And I'm wondering if you already have the 9 or whatever that number is that are
I am
experienced
wondering my concern
and
of echo chambers and insular thinking by restricting.
no, it's a good point, but isn't 9 really not an insular number? I mean, it's, if you had 3, I'd be concerned, but 9's a decent group.
But
Yeah.
remember, it's.
I think I'm with you, that's the tote.
Okay.
Doing it, and maybe not the full tote, but some selected members for a project, for
Yeah.
continuity, you know.
Yeah, the other ones that are involved, they've been doing the work, they know it. I mean, your point's valid. There's some, insularity there, but I don't think they'd be doing all that work if they're
I think that there's
self-interest or,
more people who, if they know about a process like this, would be interested in it. But there's nothing to say that a committee can't expand if the interest is there. And there's the ability to add ad hoc members.
well, that brings up a good point. The taupe is not appointed by the personnel and appointments.
That's true.
So then
And
that, should
this
that
is
be?
going to be a powerful committee in town, at least in the near term, as we're disposing school properties.
So I'm wondering if that should be, should the TOP be appointed by the Personal and Appointments Committee?
How powerful is this? Is the PROC? I'm not seeing it being that powerful. Seeing it just being another evaluation.
I think the most of folks would disagree with you.
Maybe it'll look that way on the outside, but I don't.
But it's kind of diversified. You have, it's very diversified. So you could, even if a group wanted to overtake it, they can't because you got the five
And
five agencies.
Council's input on
RTM
RTM, so it's no longer the TOP's input, now it's the TOP. Here was our
Well, if
thing,
we're
council
combining
said,
the TOP
we don't like any of that, this is what we're doing, okay, now we're doing that. So it's just,
When you got council, you got RTM, you got the agencies. It's pretty broad group, I think.
If I may, I do think at this point, once the town council's made the decision to move forward with the RFP, it would make sense to me to streamline the process and go down to a core group of people that have already been a part of the process and, you know, would streamline it because all the work of the citizens and the outreach, council's on board, you know, it's moving forward. So it could have a benefit to kind of streamline it down and have that core group of people kind of carry it on.
I'll even give you another good reason, it'll feel good for the TOP to see it through to more of a conclusion. That's one of, being in the design side as I was,
Being involved.
horrifying when we had the handover design and then whoever the client is says, go away now, you got it. Nobody wants that.
That's
So,
not a good feeling.
so it's pretty good to stay in, at least as far as the RFP is concerned. Say, yeah, the RFP is what we had in mind, what the council had in mind, or finish the work.
Eliminate handoffs.
Right.
Yeah, complete the job. Do your job, right? Isn't that a Bill Belichick? Do your job. All right, we digress.
So the other thing is that it doesn't have to be PRUC or TOP. It could be really either or. The way I see it is one is an advisory on the front end, and one turns into, you know, the streamline committee in the end. So you can break it up in two ways, and you can call it either PRUC or TOP, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think the naming really matters.
Back to when I first joined and I suggested, it didn't happen so much, as to have a much more generic name so that it could be used for multiple reasons. And we're kind of here again, saying, okay, a bunch of people, a bunch of things.
So maybe the property reuse committee would be the name, since that's the heading in the guiding principle.
That works for me. What do you guys think about that?
Okay, but that's always in the description.
So the
And to fur-
advisory property reuse committee would start with it, right? They have the baton. They're doing all the back, and then by the end, it's now turns into the more condensed version of the property use committee towards the end.
I guess what I'm thinking of is how do you go from having all of that input from liaisons as members of the PRUC, well, they're TOP now, but as members of the PRUC now, and then pushing them kind of off to the side or having them sit back while the core group as it is goes forward. The only way I see that is if you delineate somehow in the text. There's got to be an A and a B, right? There's
Right.
the A, TOP, and the B are.
So the way I see it is they already did their job. There's nothing more to do at this point. Now you're moving that baton down, right? You know, you've done your leg of the race. You know, that's how I see it. So it is the time to sit back and now have the core group move forward. Again, you don't want high numbers in the end because you're going to wear people out. So having it be much more advisory at the beginning with a larger group that streamlines in, takes the thunder of the notes, the process, the voice, and streamlines that down from the advisory to the property use committee that's now pushing it forward into the RFP process after the council says yes.
So if the suggestion is to combine TOP and property reuse, where we know that the TOP has like 14 members with all of the extra liaisons. If we run the process to ground, you do the TOP outreach and community engagement. And then once you get the RFP, at some point, you're going to go into an executive session. How do you kick those people out so that they're not in that executive session? Right? Because we determined that it's probably inappropriate for them to be there if they're going to have to later on in their home committees, host committees, whatever you want to call them, either abstain from the process. You know, like you don't want to create that conflict of interest. We had that lengthy discussion, and that's why it was determined not to put them on the pro. So my point is, how do we empower them with the TOP and then demote them in the final RFP executive session evaluation
You
process?
got your conflict of interest words here, right?
We do.
All that, right? That's the start.
That mostly focuses on financial interest.
Right.
We
Ju-
could expand it to
Yeah.
include committee.
Just to back up, we're jumping to the, after the RFP is issued. Is that what you're talking about now?
No. No.
Because I don't,
Well,
we're,
yes,
well, we're,
yes. After the RFP is issued, it comes back to the pro. And then they evaluate it in executive session to come up with a recommendation to give to town council. That's how the
Okay.
process is right now. So in that executive session, we're in executive session, we got all of our proposals in, we've evaluated the top 3. Which one are we going to send to town council and say, this one? In here, we have excluded planning and zoning, wetlands and economic and historic. Right?
in here being,
The executive session of the PROC. Because they're not supposed to be on this committee as it was originally envisioned. But now they're committee members and we're saying you can't come.
Yeah.
Is there provisions within the executive session language that only those appropriate members can enter executive
I
session?
think I'm getting confused. So we're at the TOP committee,
Well, you're combining.
well, TOP committee, but then the TOP becomes a TOP minus X, which is reviewing to make sure the RP is issued properly.
Correct.
At that point, the TOP and the TOP B, whatever you want to call it, is going.
It's a subset of the TOP.
Well, they
Five
make sure
or
the
so-
RFP is issued
They make-
properly.
But then that group has done their job.
But they have to evaluate the proposals that come in to select one to recommend to the town council, because the town council is not evaluating the proposals.
See, I look at that as the second committee.
Well, you're saying you want one committee.
No, I guess I wanted one committee in. So we started this document with the TOP. And then we go to the property reuse committee. At the property reuse committee was doing all the review to make sure the RFP was issued correctly.
Mhm.
That part, I think, shouldn't be called the property reuse committee. I thought that should continue to be the TOP. So the TOP meets quarterly, does all the review, knows what the community wants. Then they make sure the RFP that's going to be issued is in conjunction with what the town wants, because they've been involved in the process of making sure what the town wants.
Not talking about evaluating.
Yes, not evaluating it, just making sure the RFP is what the community wants.
Right.
Then the town manager and the staff issue the RFP. Now we're at the property reuse committee,
Okay.
which is a group of
Who's writing the RFP, the TOP? Who's overseeing the writing of the RFP?
town staff.
No, overseeing, she said. So town staff writes it and the TOP
Right,
takes a look at it. They get to see it
okay.
and get to respond on it. They say, okay, it's okay, or maybe this feature isn't okay. They send that back and then they're done.
Right. That's
So
how I
they,
see it.
they never see the proposals.
If
Right,
they-
because if they go hands off.
That's right, you're
They
right.
kick the RFP out the door
That's right.
and then the TOP never sees the proposals.
Their job is to make sure the RFP is what the community wants.
I would say never, because it's not appropriate for planning
Well,
and.
when it's
wetlands
all
and all of
over,
them to
they
be
might-
Oh, after the fact,
After the fact, yeah,
Yeah.
but they don't see the proposal before the council does.
That's
what I'm
correct.
saying.
Yes, I think that's their job, to make sure the RFP is what the community
Right,
wants.
so we're not combining the committees, we're just moving the line
Right.
of where their responsibilities end.
Well, I just had this disposition of town and properties. I had the property reuse committee here. I'm saying this is really just the TOP.
Okay, yeah, we're saying the same thing.
Okay. And now the RP is issued after it was approved by, the TOP made sure it was done right by the town.
And hopefully it's covered enough things so that now, once the proposal comes through, this time with enough caveats so that everybody gets, every real commission that it goes to can stop it and nobody's surprised. But hopefully it's already been smoothed out, so.
Right, so the
Okay.
PROC is just doing the evaluation essentially of the proposals.
That's it.
Yes,
And then coming up with a recommendation to give to town council.
yes.
Okay.
Now, who's on that, I guess, is where we're at.
When I see this number 2, okay, this, we're gonna call it, we'll direct the TOP.
Yes.
Right. To me, a subset of the TOP would suffice. 5 or 6 people, not 14 trying to manage anything.
Right, so maybe it's the taupe excluding X, whoever those X's are.
The chairman can pick them, but you would want the champions of the proposal to be in there.
So we would say
To make sure that
members,
they're getting what they want, right?
so if we
Right.
take a look at what's currently written, that last line of number 3, members should have the skills and experience in performing oversight for this process. And when available, should be the same representatives as sat on the taupe. Right, because this core group here that we're talking about is included in the taupe.
But I think that's where I get back to it's confusing.
Instead of saying we're cutting out the ad hoc people, we're saying, instead of putting a negative in, we're putting a positive in.
But I'm saying, I'm saying maybe not even, don't mention the property, this just is the taupe. Because this is what, back to trying to make it simple, this group is the taupe minus,
I just don't think we want to tell the town council or anybody that we've got 14 people trying to manage an RFP process. You know,
but I'm saying the taupe minus.
Yeah.
The taupe, a subdivision of the taupe, including X. I just think we start creating a whole other committee, it's gonna get more confusing.
Well, I thought we just had that discussion, that we're not combining the committees, we're just moving the lines of responsibility. You're saying to combine the committees, you want one committee. You want exactly one committee.
One taupe committee up until the RFP process being.
Yeah.
Up until the RP is issued.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about now. Then it has to be a separate committee.
Afterwards. It has to be.
Afterwards.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So we're still making 2 committees.
it's true, there still would be a second.
Well,
But
I-
Second after the RFP.
it's acting.
I wouldn't call the RFP review thing, I wouldn't call them a committee, it's an RFP review team.
Maybe that's simpler, then make it, say that.
That's the team of the taupe.
So we're going back to
No,
consolidating.
no,
into-
it's the RFP review team selected. Some town staff, some citizens,
Are
people
these
who.
different than the people on the taupe?
Well,
Because
it
they
could be- it
these
could
2
include
things
them,
should be
it
the
could
same.
include
people.
them. Again,
No, we're saying,
Term is what they're
town
saying.
council approves them.
we're saying 2 committees. It's the timing of the second committee isn't formed until the RFP is issued.
Correct. And how do you delineate the members of that second committee?
Well, that's what we gotta talk about.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, is you say this,
So-
and you just say, when available, should be the same core group. as
So-
the taupe.
So what I'm understanding is that it's an advisory committee with everybody, all the bells and whistles at the beginning. And in the end, it's the town staff and the town council taking the recommendations of everybody that was involved on the front end as the advisory committee and implementing that and moving forward. So
This
advisory
hasn't stayed.
first.
This, as it's stated, is number 2, to oversee and manage the RFP process.
Correct. Because we haven't changed it based on this conversation we're currently having.
Okay, but this is now 2 and 3 are taupe.
Well, and don't
It's a-
forget, and don't forget the advisory committee's gonna go away, and then it's gonna be town staff and the town council moving the pendulum down the line.
Well, they're gonna empower the advisory committee to do the specific task.
Right, and in fact, that's where, people keep saying, oh, I'm worried about the town staff's involvement. They're gonna be in that process from the beginning because they're the paid employees going out, helping recruit with the vision of the town in their mind, with some caveats of things that they bring back, that they find or research or offers that they get. And then the committee, the advisory group with all the community involvement and all that are gonna take that with town staff, and then it's gonna streamline into the town staff and the council that are taking that whole package and condensing it and moving it forward. So in fact, the town staff are actually still a very large part of this, even though some or some people are interpreting it as they're not. They have to be. They're the paid employee.
Agreed. So now, so you're just changing,
Right.
it becomes a taupe. We don't have to list, we just have to take out what we're excluding.
Exactly.
Let's make
So-
it simple. It's taupe committee revised.
Correct. So what I've written up here on the screen is town council will direct a subset of the town owned property evaluation advisory committee, the TOP, to oversee and manage the RFP process to fulfill the disposition direction as dictated by the town council. This will be known as the RFP work group. And the reason we want to make it an RFP work group is because as long as it's not a subcommittee, it has more flexibility in its ability to meet and workshop documents. I don't want to say outside of FOI, because obviously you're still going to want to document everything you're doing. But there's just much more flexibility, and in a RFP situation where you're trying to come up with a document in 6 weeks or less, you want to be able to say, hey, let's meet a couple days a week. We need an extra session, but you don't maybe have a 24-hour.
I like it.
Right. So work group, there's a lot of other reasons to go for work group, but this is something that we use at the Contract and Standards Board to do some of these like sprint type work. So work group works well.
I like that. And I also think that that's really important because, you know, any town staff involvement as it comes along, if I was a town staff, I'd feel more comfortable knowing that this process has helped and been a part with all the constituents and the community and this committee doing all the work first, so that there's no embarrassment on the back end when it gets shut down by the community. So, in fact, you would think that town staff and folks would want a process like this, so there's no embarrassment in the end. It's already vetted.
So
In practice, how, because we're back to this work group managing it, it's what it looks like. And the way I was kind of envisioning it was that staff would go off. They know what they're supposed to do. They already know what they're supposed to do. They've gotten their marching orders. Here's the things that are supposed to be included. They already know that. And they're going to write it. I would think that at that point, the work group then says, here, we'll take that and we'll pass it around and we'll look at it and see if there's any issues. It's a RFP review.
yeah, and I think I agree. And I guess where this is getting confusing is number 2 in my world simply says the town council will direct the subset of town property evaluation committee to oversee and manage the RFP process. I don't think you bring up the RFP work group until that point happens.
I'm sorry, Councilor McBride, is there something we can help with?
Yeah, I have a meeting with Tom.
You came to meet with Tom?
Yeah.
There's no Tom in this meeting, but if you go down the hallway here and take a left, there's additional meeting rooms.
In the
Yep, so if you keep coming down this way and go left,
Yeah.
there's,
left.
yep,
Yeah,
come out left and then left.
So I guess where I'm getting hung up is I'm trying to make it simple, and
Mhm.
I don't think we need to bring up the RFP work group on number 2. I think the town-owned property evaluation advisory committee is all they're doing. It's formed. Then it's going to ensure the RFP is issued properly. And then the work group is formed.
How are they going to ensure that the RFP is issued properly if the work group to develop the RFP is never established?
Doesn't the staff do the RFP?
I thought the staff
Staff
did
does
the
the
RFP.
So this RFP work, right, so the staff is gonna write the RFP, the RFP work group is.
Is gonna review.
The
We're gonna
proposals.
oversee.
Yes.
They evaluate it after it's been written.
Yeah, oversee it, but not manage,
So
oversee.
it doesn't need to be 2, 3. It needs to be, I think it needs to be lower.
What needs to happen is we go back up here to the top. The town council will make a final decision on the disposition of property and direct town staff to develop an RFP. Are we saying that they're going to develop this RFP and kick it out the door without anyone else looking at it?
You know that,
Which store? All they're going to do is pass it over back to the tote.
right. Yeah, so
Okay.
it goes back to the TOP, and the TOP has to approve. They have to ensure that the TOP and everything, all the work that people have done is in that RFP properly. You word it better, in time. I just conceptually.
So work with me here. Town council will make a final decision on the disposition of the property and direct town staff to develop an RFP. The town staff will submit for review and approval the RFP to the TOP.
So
The TOP will decide
You to ensure it,
or review to
The-
ensure
the details, valid, I don't know.
the RFP document conforms to the direction of the town council. I will tell you that the staff is going to complain that this is micromanaging, but
well,
that's this is for the town council.
for their benefit,
To ensure that the RFP document conforms to the direction of the town council. Do we want to give the TOP the ability to reject this document? Because
Well,
if we do
I
not
think
say
that's
it's
where it gets,
an interpretation by the town attorney or staff that says, well, we let you look at it. If you don't like it, tough.
I would say that Tope's business is writing reports.
The what?
Is
Yeah.
writing reports. And so this would be one of those places where Tope is again an advisory committee and has read this thing and now will advise the council, this is okay, or this is the things that
Good point.
Be changed.
Portia, do
Right,
you have
and
something to say?
I just want to say I agree with that. Again, we were talking earlier about making sure something is digestible. I think it'd be very hairy to say that this group could reject. It's advisory only in the sense that this, for me as a counselor, currently there's no process. So usually I get these things after it's already the preferred developer, right? By having this and me paying attention early on in the process, I should know exactly what's already happened, reviewed the meetings, and I already have my decision made. What you guys present from this committee that they put forward are going to be recommendations. Council can trump those recommendations if they think it's not a great idea. Again, we're trying to put a process in place, which we're doing, but I don't think that we should have the ability to trump the council. But at least there's a record of the process in which the committee made suggestions. So if you have planning and zoning and wetlands and the historic commission and the other constituents saying, hey, this, and this, nobody then can say on the back end, we didn't tell you. Now we have a process. As a counselor, it helps me. Why? The homework's been done and followed. All I have to do is do a quick review. I know exactly what has been said, what the constituents have said, and now I make my elected, positions decision on the findings, up or down. I think we don't want the committee to reject anything.
Agreed. I
I
think
hear
we're all
that.
there. Yep.
And one thing I will say is that what you will run into with having this go to the entire 14-member tote without any restrictions is a confidentiality issue. You don't want to, an RFP that isn't yet approved and submitted, you want to keep confidential to keep the playing field level. The fewer people who can say something on the slide of whomever or accidentally, you know what I mean?
Well, didn't we talk about making this particular taupe the second taupe? A subset. So make,
No.
well, actually,
I didn't want
we want a
you guys
different name.
to do it until after it was approved by
Yeah.
you wanted the second section just to be the evaluation of the proposals. We're talking about before issuance.
So maybe
Correct.
that's where this doesn't go. Maybe it goes to the condensed version of the group where it's either the elected officials or, it doesn't go to the advisory. It goes to that subsection where it's town staff and elected officials at that point.
A subsection of the taupe, including XXX, make it
To review the RFP.
That's right.
5 people.
Maybe we should put back to a subsection.
An appropriate subset.
Herein called the, and name it there.
RFP worker.
But
I don't,
maybe,
but let's just say a modified subset of the taupe to include X, because the more we get more committees, more.
let's say. It's gonna.
Doing great, by the way. Thank you. Lots of changes.
But there's three things. The last one is completed. The first two, it says the taupe, members of the taupe. Reduced membership of the taupe, and we'll define what that is, just to make sure everything that was discussed is in there. Yes, could be a 1-hour job. But it just puts the same people, same membership on.
Yeah.
And that's
We
it.
also don't want to take away the job of the elected official, which is oversight and final review and making a vote. So I do think that we want to make sure we keep that there.
Okay, so for the evaluation and review of the RFP before it is issued, you want to give that to a subset of the taupe.
Yes,
Okay, you need to define the membership of the subset of the taupe.
sure.
No, they can do it at the time.
Suggestion on that, guys?
Larry,
The town
You've got 3 town council members on the taupe. Why would not that subset for review, it says, yeah, matches it, be those 3 counselors?
This is the town hall annex.
we had a little break there. What are you recommending, Larry?
I'm saying there's 3 town council members on the taupe. Why would not the subset that says this RFP meets the approved recommendation from the taupe would be those 3 members?
Yeah,
That's it.
I'll make it simple. I don't know what the optics, as they say, would be.
They may not be available. I don't know. I
Or
won't
they're,
nail it.
or a designee of the.
What their designees.
Right, how does that sound?
That's gotta be, make it 3 people,
Yeah,
make it 3,
Right.
so it's them or
Three
their
town councilors
designees.
or-
They can do it.
I would just have the town council pick them.
Well, that's way.
Well, for me, what happened before, we had Conrad Heed and Leanne Overy that were the 2 people that were selected. There was no other final process. So they
Well,
were
this-
working with the town staff,
Portia, just
making preferred developers. So let me
Just
just
to back
finish.
up, Portia, this is,
Let me-
I'm just gonna say it's
Well,
not
I'm
for
getting
the
to my
final.
point. I'm getting to
Okay.
my point, though. I'm sorry, I take a long road there. Part of that's my chemo brain, so I apologize. My thoughts don't fire the same like everybody else's anymore. But I'm getting there. I just have to start further
Okay,
back.
I'm sorry,
to get
go
to what
ahead.
I'm trying to. Yeah. So what I'm concerned is the 3. You know, I know Larry said the 3 fulfill it. I don't want anybody fulfilling my decisions either. That's what was happening before. And then it's like, here we are standing there looking like a deer in headlights going, okay, how did these people get here? You know,
But-
I do think those 3 people, shouldn't, I guess maybe I'm lost a little bit on the process, because the 3, what would they be fully deciding? Because I
They,
don't
they
think
wouldn't
3
decide, Portia, they wouldn't decide anything. It's just what it says. Those 3 people would advise the town council, the whole town council, as to whether a document was ready to be issued. And then the town council would go, okay, we agree or we disagree.
Yeah, they're making sure the RFP is what the TOP desired from the
Correct.
community.
Right. But the town council still has, the total town council still has the final decision.
All right, I'm okay with that then. I guess maybe I apologize for my reception. I might have misheard how that was good, because I just don't even still, okay, so fine, based on all the community involvement, the whole committee, these 3 counselors then are saying, I think we met the criteria of everybody, what they wanted. Let's move it forward. Council then can review it.
Correct.
I'm fine with that.
Yes,
Thank you. Sorry.
thanks.
The council members on the TOP. That's the way that sentence would start, would then evaluate, would then review the RFP and report back to the entire council.
Well, that's the next step, right?
Substep, but now we're defining what that subset is.
I think under 12, we ought to say the town council make a decision and a subset of the TOP will town council make a final decision, dismiss the property and direct the town staff to develop an RFP, period. And a subset of the TOP will be established to
That's what she's got in the-
review.
that's what she has in the next sentence, right?
But what we're saying here is, rather than say a subset of the TOP, we have in a half a sentence, define the ability to define what we expect that subset to be, which is the 3 counselors or their designees.
Okay, I would define it. I would look at the
Alright,
time.
bring me up to speed.
I don't know. I don't know if I like the designee part.
Well, we want to be able to make sure that 3 people.
How about we say as available, and then that gives the flexibility if they're not available to go say, because remember, an RFP process is going to be a very consolidated, concentrated effort. So maybe I can make a meeting once every other week, but I can't make 2 or 3 meetings a week for the next 6
No, but
weeks.
this isn't for the RFP review. This is just to make sure the RFP follows the TOP and
They're just gonna
Yeah, same thing.
just do a read through
it
it.
shouldn't be that lengthy. This piece. should be.
To read through the RFP once, and then you say, no, this is garbage, send it back, and they have to do it again.
No.
So how many times are you gonna make them go through the revision?
To me, do we have a public engagement plan in here for this? Do we have the community requirements section is probably the most important part of the town council for citizen input. What is the community looking for? Out of this? The rest of the RFP is a lot of boilerplate, right? It's a huge thing. And who's on the proposal review team? That's something else.
Well, let's finish 13. So we're gonna say 3 counselors or somebody designated by the mayor. What's the word we're gonna use there?
So you want it to be the same individuals that were originally on the TOP because they've been part of the process all. The subset of the TOP that we
The
had
3
to,
town council members or their designated.
We say, or their
Yeah, see,
designees.
So
Within the
designee within the TOP, right? I want someone that's been part of the process, because
you go.
that's gonna be a
So-
long meeting if it's designated 3 random people that have not been part of it.
Yeah, so
3 or 5.
their designees from the TOP.
3 or 5. 3.
Well, Larry just mentioned three because there happen to be three counselors on it, so.
Sure.
And it probably is.
So here's the thing is we can say, here's your options. I'm gonna give you a menu, ready? So you can say the 3 counselors of the TOP, the 6 elected members of the TOP, the 6 elected members and the ex officio staff. But you'd assume that the staff is already involved because they're presenting the RFP that they've written. I would say a mixture, 3 of the 6 elected members sitting on the TOP already. It doesn't matter if it's 3 council, 3 RTM, or a mixture thereof, 1 council, 2 RTM, 2 councils, 1 RTM. Just the elected members of the TOP,
I do like 3 of the 6 elected,
3 of the 6
but
elected.
who decides that? The mayor?
As chosen by the chair of the TOP, and the chair of the TOP is chosen by the mayor. So you don't have to go back to the
It's fine.
table.
Yeah, 3 of 6. That's. Because that way you have some flexibility. if People can't make it.
Or if there's conflicts of interest,
Sure.
you do whatever.
How about just elected officials, like make a number, so it either be RTM or town council?
That's what you did, right?
What?
That's what you covered, the 6 elected
The
officials?
6 elected officials would be the 3 counselors and the 3 RTM. There's no other elected officials.
People who can devote the time and have the skills, right?
This
You
one,
okay with that, Marshall?
this doesn't take a high skill set at that point. At this point, they're reading through and saying,
Well, they want to make sure that the community requirements are being met.
Yeah.
Right?
I think we should bump it up to 5. Well,
I think just in case somebody can't attend, if you just say 5 elected officials, it could be a combination of RTM and counselors, depending on who's available
correct. Yep.
from the
We're all
TOP
in-
committee. So if you say five elected officials, and it can be a combination of 3 and 2, 3 and 2, whatever way you want to flip it.
What I like saying of at least 3 and not putting an upper cap means that all 6 elected officials, if they are willing and able,
Yeah.
can participate.
I like that.
Good idea.
I like that.
3 of
That's
the
fine.
officials appointed to.
Elected officials are elected members.
Elected officials streams it. There's, I'm
Okay.
drawing a distinction without a difference, because I'm not elected on to being a member of the TOP. I'm an elected official appointed to the TOP.
Reviews the RFP.
The TOP subset will review the RFP to ensure the RFP document conforms to the direction of the town council. Subset will advise the town council as to whether or not the document is ready to be issued. And then the town council issue the RFP. Right,
Well, as whether it advises town councils whether or not the document is ready for their action.
be, is ready.
Right? I don't know, might be approved.
They may not, they may not.
Whether or not, well, their charge is to say, does it conform? We will advise whether or not it conforms. You can do whatever you want with it.
because it might come back saying, not quite, it's missing ABC.
It doesn't conform, but we still like it, or it doesn't conform, but we want to do it anyways.
But hopefully it will come up, I mean, in its best effect, it will come up and say, it's wonderful, except for item 3, you should change that.
Right.
And then they would direct staff to change it or not.
Council. Clarifications or changes to the RFP if desired, and direct town staff to either rewrite RFP or release it, and direct the town staff on its issuance. And right, that gives them the option to not issue.
Well, they accept, reject, or want it modified.
except for different model.
Right,
Right, yeah, the word modify in there.
yeah.
Do we want, even want to say it under, I can't imagine any circumstances where at this point there would be an outright rejection. Because all the boilerplate's gonna be okay. No matter, the best it would ever be is if modifications.
Unless something changes between when we say, okay, yeah, let's put this out to RFP, and then there's a big, oh yeah, we can't do that. And then it comes to the RFP is written and we go, actually, we don't want to do it. It just gives another chance for the community to have time to come back and say, no, actually, we don't want this to be sold and developed.
Is that
Right.
time, is that the,
And besides, you always want to give, anyways, forever, you always want to give a body a no.
well, I'm
A no,
thinking,
right.
I'm thinking if there's a big uproar. And they're hearing about, that's the time for the town council to take on, say, thanks for on modifying this stuff. We're not going to do it because we just heard we want it. So
That's right.
I'm saying that the. Oh, wait a minute, who's saying that, that one is issuance be acceptance? Okay, I was missing who was saying this, the town council.
And I mean, I don't think you could ever tell the town council they must adopt something.
Oh, that's absolutely good.
But it also gives room for, if it goes to the council after all these checks and the 6 elected people, and they don't think that they like it, they can send it back with some more recommendations back to that committee to go back and review.
I think that was I was thinking about number 13, actually, about what the top
13.
subset. Well, the subset was whether or not the document conforms to the initial direction of the town council, or if further modification would be,
And if they recommend
because that's a yes or no. That's right.
further,
Say modifications. Double check.
all right,
Okay, moving on to the next paragraph.
okay. So you have a subset of the TOP that has just evaluated the RFP and given it to the town, I'm gonna narrate this like a Shakespeare play. Given it to the town council to say, kick it out the door, or don't kick it out the door. So the town council, we're going to assume it's been kicked out the door, and the next process is you gather the proposals. Right?
Yep.
And we should say back up here that the RFP is created and issued in conformance with Appendix A. I'll make that note. Yes, Bob?
I don't see the total subset managing. Go back up to that word manage, it still bothers me.
Where?
One more up, I think. I don't know where it was. It was, I don't know where you went. One more, go up again, I guess, keep going up.
Making a note.
No, it was the next section. There you go.
Yeah,
Yes, well, we're, obviously we have to rewrite this.
Yeah, this is all.
Move on.
This is now the subgroup.
so no, this paragraph
This is
2,
not a different subgroup.
the town-owned evaluation subcommittee to oversee, provide input and oversee. Right, not manage, provide input and oversee. Right,
I thought we already did all that. We're all past this.
So
We're at now just evaluation, aren't we?
we are on evaluation, hold on. Evaluation of town-owned property
RFP.
proposals.
Are we talking about?
Town-owned property development proposals. That's what we're talking about, right? In this section. Evaluation of town-owned property development proposals,
Okay.
because that is the cognizance of this subgroup.
And this is just, we need to select the group and follow appendix
This
A.
can all actually be deleted because the TOP subset has already been established by the language above. To the TOP,
okay, so now the proposals come in, just the proposals.
yes.
So,
So are we comfortable with that TOP subset being the evaluators? Is that where we're at?
I'd say this is the classic RFP review team,
Yes,
you know,
we have,
So this is the second true committee.
yeah.
this is the,
This is
They're
second.
they're
Is it-
appointed by the town, they're appointed by the town council, they could be anybody.
isn't this the subset though? Because the subset with more people if they want, I mean, this is the subset that we've already established. It was my mind is they're doing the evaluations, the elected members are doing the evaluations.
See, I look at this as it doesn't necessarily have to be that 3 of 6 elected officials. This can be a separate group.
Usually is. Usually is.
Okay, so we are creating a new thing.
I mean, if you agree, I'm just saying, I think some of those counselors in RTM have been involved in a lengthy process and they may be like, I'm done.
Work group. Which will. When evaluating. What's the word I'm looking for? Not qualified, I'm trying to think, hold on. Not acceptable, not qualified, not permissible, timely proposal. Valid proposals, I'm not saying valid proposals, because you're not going to evaluate any proposals that come in late. Or are non-conforming in any other way, and. The disinterested town staff member who is holding on to all the proposals before they get moved to the evaluation committee is supposed to go through them and pretty much knock out any that are completely non-starters.
So how significant of a change? What do we need to do here compared to how they're doing it now?
You know, is this the RFP review team?
Yes.
I mean, they have to consider the report, what's required out of the RFP. Not all this other stuff at this point. If it isn't in the RFP. You can't, you can't consider it, right? It's direction of the town council, information provided by the TOP, all that. If it's not in the RFP, can't judge. So this judge them, right?
This piece is really just who the committee is, because they just got to follow Appendix A, right? Appendix A is going to detail all the evaluation criteria.
I don't know, our RFP review teams are well-known, well-established. A lot of history. Not a lot of mystery.
I don't care what we call
So how is that group selected? How was it selected last time? Was it the mayor appointed or? I mean, staff's
Make
involved.
recommendations and the council approves it. Typically.
it.
The staff
So there's
makes-
not really a full review team. There's not a full review team that the staff provides it to the council.
No, it's the RFP review team. It consists of some staff members, absolutely, and others. As suggested by the staff and the town council.
So can this be vague enough then where it's just, we don't have to list out all the people in this, right? We just say that this work group is going to consist of staff and members appointed by the mayor. Is that what we're,
The important thing is that it's approved by the town council, so that Portia's. And our worry is that somebody doesn't get a fix in there, you know. Using it.
So the membership of the RFP or of the review team shall consist of. Fill in my blank.
town staff? And I mean, how strict do we want to be? I don't know the process well enough.
Well, let's back it up. Who's choosing who's on the review team? Is it the chair of the TOP? Is it the mayor?
So. Hope stuff.
Ultimately, the town council approves it by vote.
So before, they just had two counselors that were appointed, but they never reported, we never got reports or because it was all classified. So you never really knew what the heck was going on.
So the town council shall create a request, an RFP review team. I need to know who's making the team. Let's start there, baby steps.
Yeah,
town council is going to create an RFP team
Yeah.
once all valid proposals
Yeah.
have been
Yes.
submitted.
Well, they can create the RFP review team at any time. So they don't need to wait till the valid proposals are in.
Well, the
I would-
only purpose of the review team is to review proposals,
That's correct. So they can do it on the spot.
which will evaluate all valid proposals received. The membership of the review team shall be chosen by appointed by the mayor,
So
right? Consideration as detailed in appendix A and consist of at least 3, but no more than 5 members. Total. And I don't want to tell the town council what to do. The members can be town staff. Other elected officials. Or citizens of Groton, of the town of Groton. We just say Groton, town of Groton, Connecticut. All right, members,
Could we say something that other town council members, to Portia's point, other town council members could be ad hoc members at their discretion? And maybe up to 3, up to 2, or something, I don't know. But so that it's not a club. It doesn't have a, I don't know if it's a great term, but if a minority person who doesn't agree with the other thing, you can have, this happened in my career in the council. You wish that other people were there. And so, I don't know, just the words that additional town councilors, besides the 3 that are appointed by the mayor, could be ad hoc members. So they're in the meetings, they're listening, they're seeing, they're reading, they're not decision makers necessarily.
ex officio members meeting.
Yeah,
Town councilors may join as ex officio members at will.
at their discretion, yeah.
Does
No,
that
I don't
somehow
know.
circumvent the power of the mayor? Because if the mayor's saying it's gonna be these 3 guys,
It does. Yes, it does.
You don't even have the number 3 here. You just have 5 appointed by the mayor.
of at least 3, but no more than 5.
But it doesn't need to be,
It-
according to this, it doesn't need to be 3 counselors. It could be 1 counselor.
I'll say this, all town councilors may be considered ex officio. And then that way, if they are particularly interested in the property or process, they are always guaranteed access. My only thing with this is how would you prevent against the fix coming in during the evaluation phase where one counselor really, really pulls? I've seen this in
Yeah.
disputed RFP cases where you have 1 or 2 people who are, when they are scoring, you are looking at their scores and going, what are they doing? There's a very obvious preference.
Yeah.
For a particular whatever.
There's biases.
And then they are also the people who, so they score it and then they go to their board
So
and they vote on it. Even though, you know what I mean? So
okay, I don't know how you can prevent that, but I'm trying to.
do we
prevent
want
is-
the town councilors who are going to be voting on the preferred developer to also be the one evaluating the proposals? Because I see the issue again of, we have 2 town councilors who are very intimate in the process. Going into an executive session, talking about maybe proposals that didn't get in front of the council. And then having some kind of
Okay,
different knowledge base
Then
that they may or may
let's-
not end up sharing.
let's rethink that.
Do we want the town councilors? I'm just seeing like a conflict. Why are you evaluating the proposals and voting on the preferred?
what I'm hearing is it's a thing of, you got one piece of cake. Between the 2 of you, you cut it in half and you take the first pick. That's the idea of making it even. And that would be one way of helping, not having the fix be in, as if the counselors that are
Well,
part of the evaluation, then are presenting it to the rest of the council and aren't voting.
So they're not allowed to go into executive session when a preferred developer, there's a discussion about it.
Well, we've got a preferred developer, we're past the review.
Well, we're talking about when you come out of the evaluation, right? We're trying to think the next step ahead. When you come out of the evaluation phase, you've got town councilors who have seen everything. And have already kind of probably they made their scorings, they made their judgments. Now they're going to go to the full council in a closed executive session. You're not supposed to vote, though apparently consensus is the same as voting but different, but whatever. You're not supposed to vote in executive session. No one knows what you're saying there. No one knows what you are divulging or not divulging. Ostensibly, you're going to be given the same set of facts as the person who has been in the process the
Yeah.
whole time.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like,
So,
do we want to have the RFP evaluation committee have town councilors on it, the decision makers on it, before there's a decision to be made?
typically is. That's has been,
I can understand arguments from all sides.
yeah.
I feel uncomfortable
maybe-
with this. It's how it
So
works
maybe no
now.
counselors should be on it. I mean, if we all can't be on it, why should some have preference over others? That's my concern. So what happened with me, wanted nothing more than to be a part of that help of trying to figure out what these TIF districts were going to be, the Mystic Oral School, but I had no movement. Who they picked, who they picked, not because they were the better. It might be that they just pick them at random. So that's not fair to the rest of the counselors at the end when they have to make a decision. I think no counselor should be part of that. We vote on that when it comes to us.
And then that way, everybody gets all of the information presented at the exact same time.
Right.
We're creating a fair and level playing field for the counselors when they're evaluating the proposals. There's no chance for anyone to accuse you knew this, but didn't say anything.
No favorite brothers or sisters.
Correct.
That's right.
Correct.
Well,
So
and
we-
I felt like the certain counselors that were part of it develop a relationship with the town staff, which is not a bad thing, but they know more about what's going on than the people who are making the votes up there. In the end, and it feels like not a fair playing field.
I just think we have to be concerned, where do we get these members from? As you said before, if we don't have three from the town council, where do they come from? The general public? I mean, you got to find them somewhere.
I think-
Spend the time on it.
I think Larry's proposal is valid because his idea was that this makes it very simple. We got 3 counselors, so let's just do that. But maybe that's the problem with that.
Right, so I'm,
3 RTM, that's fine because they're not going to, they're so dilute by the time it goes to the RTM, it's not a problem.
right, so, here's what I want to say is, I want to have lessons learned from our recent past. I want to keep in mind the leadership we currently have, but also acknowledge and be gracious towards the leadership that we may have in the future. So that being said, as diplomatically as I can,
And oh, sorry.
no, I'm going to very much recommend that we do keep the counselors out of this.
Out of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as a counselor who's up there, I know it said about the leadership that we have. I do feel like I'm a fine leader, but I'm only as good as what I'm given. And I felt like a huge disconnect in the process. And then in the end, the counselors are the ones left holding the bag, and the town is saying, oh, wait, you guys didn't do the right thing. You didn't do this, 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 and this. And it's like, you know about half of this stuff because it only comes to us as this is our preferred pick developer. So I do think, I don't know, there's got to be some way where we're in the know along the way. I think there should be something in this document that states that there'll be more updates as well. If it has to be executive session, because it's regarding a property that's, not fully, allowed to be public yet, but even then it was very bare bones. And, the 2 counselors that were handpicked, however, the means, which there was no process, it was just these 2, they knew more and were going out to properties, seeing the developers, going out to these places. And we didn't get that same opportunity, but yet we had the same power of voting in the end.
Can I make an observation?
Go ahead, Larry.
We got 2 different things. We've already determined the evaluation criteria earlier. That's been approved by the town council. What you're getting here, and I'm leaning towards not having any town councilors for the following reason. You're getting a you're getting an independent evaluation against the approved criteria, which then gets presented back to the town council that says, we reviewed it, here's the criteria, here's what we saw, and here was the results. Then the town council can vote on it. So I kind of leaning towards what you said is not, having it assigned to review it, but what the scoring card is because it's already been approved.
Ian Thomas also has his hand up.
Okay.
You wanna come over?
I'll get, Bob, you had your hand up and I'll go to Ian.
Yeah, we're going to 7:30 or 8. You say,
It's quarter right now.
so
So
8, 7:30?
I'm good till 8.
I'm good till 8. But you're the boss.
No, I'm good to late if everybody else is.
8 o'clock?
I'd like to get through as much of this as we
Yeah,
can.
agree. Bob, do you have your hand up?
No.
No, okay, Ian? Do I need to? Where do I? Where is he?
He's in the attendees.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like he took his hand out.
His hand's down though.
Oh, Ian, you good?
He can't answer you until you allow him to talk.
Oh, Ian, you all set?
Yeah, I'm all set. Sorry, that was inadvertent. I didn't mean to have my hand up.
Okay, no problem, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so it seems like the majority of the group is to, and the council can change that if they want to.
Elected officials, we can say other than town councilors, and then that allows
There you go.
Board of Ed members, because technically the state owns the board of the schools until the Board of Ed turns them over to the town. So it can include Board of Ed members, it can include the town clerk.
You have the ex officio there.
I also think not having the town councilors in it, I don't think the developers, like in some of these things, data center and all, I had developers personally call me. I don't personally think, and I don't know if this should be written somewhere, I don't think I should be discussing anything with any developers. So I don't take their calls. You know what I mean? I think that like there should be somewhere in this document where it should be hands off, meaning councilors who are going to be making a vote should not be able to be contacted by Mr. Quinn was calling and saying, about the data centers. If you have a minute, I'd like to talk to you. It's like, whoa. I don't want that responsibility as a non-paid elected official. And I think also the 2 appointed counselors that are going to meet these developers and stuff, there shouldn't be allowed to have, even if it's above board in emails on town email, I think that should be a hands-off situation. Council should not be approached or brought in unless it's on a whole scale where all equally we're getting the same information.
That is in Appendix A under ex parte communications. It's covered.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so we have the membership. Now we're on to commencing the process.
All right, so the review team will commence review. Reviewing the submitted proposals. And I don't think we need to rehash what Appendix A says.
That's reviewing them.
As detailed in Appendix A, because Appendix A takes you through the entire evaluation of.
Not just because just for the benefit of what people think is happening, reviewing and scoring. So you don't need to say that.
Viewing and scoring.
Good idea.
Review team shall issue a report. Right.
Right.
Of the submitted of these scored proposals. And a recommendation for a preferred developer to the town council for consideration. Do we need to detail how the town council shall go about reviewing this report?
Is that from the original document?
This right here, 5. This is old.
It's all.
We're forging a brave new path here. So anything that's after 4 and above is kosher.
So the idea that it goes to town council.
So
You're-
yes.
You're asking, do we need to say?
So what goes out, so after we go to the town council, what do you want to say?
Should we say somewhere that they should have a schedule, let the review team, they're gonna do, we should know when they're gonna be done. It's not,
Well,
so we have an end date. We know when, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, whatever, but they will,
Within so many days, you're saying?
Pardon?
Within so many days, maybe, because that,
yeah.
but it's gonna be, there's. I suppose, that way.
I mean, so we can expect something in 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
following closure of the. Okay. Let me look here, evaluating submitted proposals. Selection factors. Evaluating proposals. So the thing is, when you're evaluating proposals. And this gets really into the weeds of the Appendix A policy. You have the opportunity, the evaluation committee does, of having communications with the respondents.
Right.
So that includes interviews, presentations, whatever. So
Yeah.
whatever timeline that you constrict between closure, like deadline of submittal
Okay.
and response to the
So-
council needs to take into account
When
all
you
of the.
schedule, plan to reschedule. Just give us a date, then you say you can't make it, new date is,
Yeah.
okay, that's all. Okay, we're not holding you to it, we're not trying to hold you to it, just want to know,
How long between when we close,
when can we expect
when can we expect to ever
your
report?
results?
I would
And if
say
it changes, okay, just tell me it changed.
30 days.
I think what you're saying is that it could be 30 days, but
If you
all
need
hell
more
will
time,
break loose and we say, oh, wait a minute, we need to do an amendment or
yeah,
something
if you need
like
more
that.
time, just tell us.
But there could easily be an
But keep us
amendment.
up to date on your completion date.
So the review team shall issue a report of the scored proposals and a recommendation for a preferred developer to the town town council for consideration. No.
Within 30
more
days.
than
Well, you could say within 30 days, however, and the however is,
within 30 days of the RFP submittal deadline. This report submittal date may be revised as necessary. Right, because if you end up getting 16 qualified proposals, you're gonna need more time than 30 days
correct.
to do the due diligence on that.
I mean, shouldn't there be an approval of that or something? I mean, you could just keep on revising forever.
How about,
You can't nail it down. You just can't.
because the thing is, you do need to let the respondents know when they can expect to
Right. And
be noticed.
we'll say there's an expectation.
Proposals have a shelf life, they'll tell you.
Oh, that's true.
Proposal is good for 60 days.
If you're 60 or 90 days, it's usually it.
Is and you gotta also include the debriefing and appeals process. I just want to make sure that there's nothing conflicting. here.
Maybe you could just say they will keep the town council appraised of their progress.
I think it's good to have a
No,
deadline.
I think that, yeah, I think that's good.
Necessary and approved by the town.
30 days, or council has to approve an extension.
I say, no, we're not. Okay, well. We're done. You don't have a choice.
In the next available committee of the whole meeting, entering and exiting executive session strictly as needed with all appropriate and allowable information disclosed prior to and after each, the town council shall vote on disposition on a preferred developer. This can mean accepting a proposal or providing new direction to we're calling it the taupe. We're calling it the RFP to the town staff to write a new RFP.
There you go.
This vote could end the process by deciding to do nothing with the property.
Well, town council will direct the town manager. not town staff. Oh, go on. Yeah, there you go.
So hold a public information meeting to present the preferred purchaser and their conceptual plans to the public. So here we are going back into the public engagement process. Once all of the preferred, I mean, that's a good point, right? So let's think about the process that we have right now. We have an RFP review team looking at all of the submitted proposals. They evaluate them. They submit a confidential report to the town council. So the town council can decide on a preferred developer. At what point do we want the public to have a say in what they want the preferred developer to be? Or do we think that that's an appropriate part of this process? Right, so think about it, if we had for Gloucester, we had three completely different proposals come up from not a consultant, but different developers saying we could do this. You know, it could be only apartments. It could be mixed use development with some recreation. It could only be recreation. And we have people walk around with those stupid stickers and put stickers on the presentation. Is that something we want before the town council goes in and picks a preferred developer? Or do we just trust the town council to be the town council and pick a preferred developer based on the confidential?
I don't like the term preferred developer, okay? I would say you're picking the accepted proposal. That's all.
Well, what you're saying is that, you know, we're saying at that point, the town council picks an accepted proposal.
Yeah.
Or preferred developer accepted, I like accepted proposal.
But to,
I've never understood preferred. It's not preferred, he's accepted, we're taking.
Yeah, right. I don't know.
Proposal,
I don't know what that means.
it's signed.
it means that should that develop, that's where they're starting, but they're not saying completely no to the other developers because something
I
could
need
fall
a
through.
definition.
All right, well, I'm not gonna give you one right now.
But
No, I know, I'm not asking you to, but I'm just saying somewhere
But
in
here's
the documentation.
Here's my.
so
concern.
that's news to me though, so that at that point. We're not actually choosing, we're just saying, okay, you go forward and if we don't like it, we're gonna.
Because what's gonna happen is I'm gonna choose Bob Frank to come develop my old school property.
Right.
And we're gonna start negotiating and he's
Right.
gonna say, I want this, that, and the other. And I tell him to pound sand and he goes, fine, I'm leaving. Now you still have two other valid proposals to go back to. They weren't preferred, but you can go back and say, hey, you know what, the first one fell through, you're on deck, do you want it still? And they either say yes or no. Or you look at them and go, yeah, we really didn't want you guys.
I guess that's where I was confused, we're looking at
That's why they're,
at proposals where there's still negotiation. Okay.
I just don't know what the connotations of preferred developer means.
Well, it means normally, I think we're accustomed to accepting a proposal and saying, fine, we're signing, we'll get your first
We
check,
prefer you at the moment.
but we're not looking at that. We're looking at saying, now we're okay with continuing with the discussion.
correct. And that's how it
Which is
should
interesting,
be.
but just so you know, there's, I don't know the name for that because for when government hires design consultants, architects,
Mhm.
engineers, they can't take lowest price. This process is what happened.
Correct. It's the lowest qualified bidder.
Qualified bidder. And so you go to the first guy and you say, you are the absolute best. And you'll say, fine, that'll be $1 million. He said, okay, not quite so good.
Qualified and responsible, I think is the language now in state statute.
Okay.
The other,
But then,
the other, oh, sorry.
So that's where you get to that is the language that you're talking about, that preferred. We're just as soon sign this with you, but we still have some negotiation to do.
Now, what can happen and what we could say is the town council gets this report, picks a preferred developer, and then releases the non-confidential details of the other top proposals. And then that way the public is apprised of what could have been and could still come out to public petition or whatever and go, wait a minute, you're telling me we could have had this and you chose to put a 7-Eleven there? You know what I mean? So I think that still allows for some public engagement while the town council still skips forward and continues a process.
So my other thing, with the discussion about going back to the other second place, I guess, finisher of the non-preferred developer. Some of these things, as you've seen, some of these developments have fallen through in our town, and it's been years, you know, like sometimes a year and a half, sometimes even 2 years. So my concern is that what type of process, I mean, do we want a minimum of 3 to come back around the table? And do we just, it's been a year and a half, maybe they're in foreclosure, maybe they're bankrupt now. I mean, there's got to be some revetting because a year and a half, maybe 2 years have passed and we haven't reprocessed. I don't know. I just want to be careful about going right to the second one without coming back to a review.
Here's what I'll say, and I'm not entirely sure where it is in the Appendix A policy. If it is in there, if it's not, I'm adding a note to myself. You can always say proposals are only valid for 90 days, 120 days. If at such time that the preferred developer falls through and we are at that 121st day, we're going to ask you to, we're going to reissue the RFP. And then that way all developers know and are on the same knowledge playing field that there's going to be a reissue and it's not just going to be backwards. Hey, that guy turned out to be a jerk. Why don't you come and we do it again? That way developers know, hey, I have another shot at this potentially. I have 120 days.
Can we just take the next one?
But if you're within that 120 days, you would. And that also tells the public that you're not going to wait 6 months and then just.
Well, someone else's proposal could be good for 180 days.
It doesn't matter. We set the limit. We say it's only good for 120. And after
But what if you
120
didn't, but what if you didn't pick that second place developer because it didn't fit what you were looking for? So I'm a little nervous about just selecting the second one just because.
Oh, you don't have to select
don't
them
have
just
to,
because.
but
It gives you the option to,
Yeah.
but not the requirement.
Right, but there might be someone else even better out there by now. I just think, yes, I think it should be reissued, obviously, and the people come back around the table. They should be notified that, hey, you didn't make it, this person fell through, and number 2 and 3, we'd like you to come back. We're gonna cast that net out one more time, just in case there's someone else out there that's newly that we didn't get, but I'm just nervous about anyway, I just think there's gotta be some process and there are some deadlines.
It's totally workable. I will say in the competitive procurement field that I work in, it's very big contracts. Our pricing can go anywhere between 30 to 90 days validity. If you can't place something with me, I have every right to turn around and say, let's do it again. The customer is the same way. The government, they can say, yeah, we'll do it again. You can make up your own rules. And what my contention with the town has been heretofore is that they have not adequately set the rules of the game for themselves, for the citizens and the developers. I think it's absolutely vital to put your proposal must be valid for at least 90 days, because that gives us enough time to work our process.
Okay,
But-
that's an appendix A.
It's an appendix A.
Okay.
So we will put a proposal validity timeframe. You just have to tell me what you're comfortable with. 90 to 120 days, I think, is enough cushion room to do the whole COW meetings and contract negotiations to fall through and come back, and it gives the appeal and debrief process time. That's my recommendation, is anywhere between.
Okay,
90
I guess I'm questioning, why are we codifying this? Why isn't this a town manager recommendation? We get to the edge of the cliff and the town manager should be up to him or her to make a recommendation. Here's what I suggest we do. Not codified here. Other than to say it's a town manager call. Town council approves.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
actually
I
wondering
mean,
if this is good. I'm wondering if up until now, do we have good information to present to council? Because this is now RFP process, right?
This is,
We
you
gotta
have
prefer-
evaluated.
We got to prefer.
You got to prefer
entity.
developer.
I'm wondering, does this group think we're at a point where this information up until now is enough to give the council?
And then the rest is we're just
Maybe.
playing.
But remember, we kind of wrapped up the whole tote thing, just so we make it all the way through. Okay, going through again to.
Thank you, Bob.
Never did the tweet.
You can't even see where.
We might need one more.
I love this.
Just do another.
Right.
I'm thinking a sentence here and there. We said that will cover that.
Okay, no, I agree, that makes sense. I'm just, we're getting into details now that are important, but they're more latter end of the process. Again, just trying to get the council something. Portia, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the process now, I mean, as we've had some development fall through and there's been no talk of going back to number 2 or nothing or going, nothing. There's been no talk. There's no process.
Okay, I want to recenter the conversation. We
I
are
know that,
creating,
you said, Councilor McBride, that I got the email that you got, that there's going to be no possible meeting because I guess enough counselors can't attend on the first Tuesday in June. So they're going to consolidate everything into the 23rd of May. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's consolidated or, yeah, something like that.
So because that would eliminate the public comment. So did they say they're going to move that? Because I think one of my things about this is I'm interested to have this final draft and allow the public comment to happen organically to see if people have any discussion on it. So was there any talk about moving that public comment if we eliminate a meeting?
I didn't see anything about that. Well, no, I think there was talk of moving the meeting, but to make it a regular council meeting on the 23rd. So that would still allow for public comment. But I guess my question is, I don't know if we're ready for that.
so
No, I was just talking about what you said before. There was no rush since the meeting wasn't going to happen. So I was just trying to understand timeline of when we want to submit this.
let me ask this question. What do we want the last step of this committee to be? Where do we stop? And keeping in mind that this is a document for the town council to apply to themselves, really. We're giving them a policy recommendation for them to follow as well. It's not just this TOP, it's the town council
I
putting rules on themselves.
think it ends with the recommendation of the RFP.
So, okay,
Doesn't all this other stuff is really public hearing? That's all. Not that it's not important, but
that's all dictated by state statute anyways.
right. So this group, I think, is to try to revise the process to get the community more involved and so forth.
Okay, and so the outstanding questions from that, I agree. I think that's a good point to put a pin in it and we can delete everything after. I think the outstanding items would be, how do we address things like, when does the public know about the failed proposals? Right? When do you go back to a different developer? Is that something that we want to put into the appendix A and just say we're still workshopping it? Or is that something we want to put in this policy?
I think given the timeline that we're trying to get in, push it out.
That's the public engagement workshop that the town council's got to come up with, approve for each one of these.
And I don't think that the town council needs to go back to the RTM. They certainly did not come back to us I don't think that they came back to us to approve the MEC deal. The contract for that. Town manager's office will proceed with the sale in accordance with the town charter and applicable state statutes. Should say, once a preferred proposal, because we might not necessarily have the developer proposal selected. Town manager's office will proceed with the sale in accordance with the town charter and applicable state statutes. So that's where we're putting the pin in it. Okay, and then what these,
Proceed the sale if there is a sale.
well, we're only talking about selling, right? Because prior to, you wouldn't go out to RFP if you're not
To
selling.
build
This is
fields at Fort Chester,
You're
you're not
But the-
selling any property, but you're doing RFPs.
right, but you've already just decided on the disposition.
Yes.
So you're talking about like a subcontractor.
So we
RFP.
already know this is a sell, if it's gonna be, it's,
Right, so this is property force evaluation found on
So this
property
we dispose.
disposition, right? Right, so you're gonna go out to RFP to get a subcontractor to build yourself some athletic fields, but you're not selling said athletic fields. Valuation of town-owned property disposition proposals. So the proposals to dispose.
Well,
Dispose is a nice way to say
Uh,
sale or lease.
Developing
Right.
Colchester into playing fields is dispositioning the property.
No, not in this context, because, right, they've decided to disposition, but
As
they're not,
playing fields.
but they're not selling it,
Right.
right? But we're not going to put the TOP in to evaluate the RFPs for the Colchester Fields, are we?
Why not?
We would have if this was done previously, right?
Why not?
I think that because the town is retaining ownership,
Yeah, but
we wouldn't have gone through.
the TOP would have
Right.
decided, would have come up with a report, whether or not
Right.
to retain ownership or not.
Correct,
Yes,
but they,
The decision was
Community
not-
requirements have to be enforced.
not to, in this case, the TOP, let's say this actually ran with the TOP and the TOP came up with a report with something, said the best highest use looks like it's to keep it. And then the.
what I will say is I don't think that this process is going to be or should be necessarily for town staff to be going out to RFP to find a subcontractor to make a field. We have gone through the community engagement process to decide on a disposition. That disposition is not sale, but this process that we're talking is all about sale, relinquishing ownership, title, whatever. So I've changed number 1 here. If the final decision is to dispose of ownership of a town property, the following needs to take place.
Right.
Okay. We're good with that. We're putting a pin. Once a preferred proposal is selected, manager's office will proceed with the sale in accordance with the town charter and applicable state statutes. And then all we've got to finish is what do we do with teaming up with the state or the feds?
Which
Or
that
even-
could be a later
discussion.
discussion as well.
Do we want to remove it from this document and just have a note? We're gonna work on that later. We can make it really simple
I
and
think
say,
it's safe because we don't have a property in mind right now.
well, we have the Mystic Oral School,
Right, but nothing's happening with that right now, so.
but once this committee starts, who's to say we're not gonna get a proposal knocking on our door?
Okay.
What I will say is disposition of, what I believe it, our stance as a town should be, if the state or the federal government want to work with us, they will do so in accordance with all of the above.
I completely
We'll
agree.
be visioning.
There will be visioning.
Everything will be there. So that's making the whole thing.
And I envision us sending something to the council, then reviewing and making comments, and us regrouping, incorporating comments. It's gonna be a couple of iterations, I would think.
Yeah.
So some of this we can be working on as we're.
Or to say for this part, for non-town town-owned property,
But it would be good to just send,
all of the above.
it'd be good to send something forward as our first read. And then take solicit comments from that we can add and then, you know.
Agreement to follow the, what are we calling this? Full policy, disposition policy? I'm just gonna call it disposition policy for now. We'll workshop the title. Follow the town disposition policy. As set herein. Any conflicts due to state or federal law will be noted in the agreement with a path for resolution, keeping the focus on community centered engagement. Community centered engagement development. Sure, oh, wait, start sitting here. Aha, aha. Okay, me doing too much work. Any such changes should not minimize the requirement for a full criminal background check and credit check to be completed by an essay for the law. The review process will include an extensive internet search, of the responding companies and its principal. For companies that are invited to continue the process beyond the first interview, any RFP process involving the town shall minimum include relevant town staff, 3 representatives of the town council, 3 representatives of our TM one. All right, hold on, let's call out all of these committees and agencies. and say, and may include other citizen on an ad hoc basis. Such members being appointed by the mayor, manager, moderator, and chairs.
Does the RFP review process, won't you just go back to exactly what we had above?
Well, right, so is this a reiteration? Any RFP process involving town will require utilization, I wouldn't say a similar, I'd say
Okay.
utilization of the disposition process
Right.
as outlined above, and then we can cut all this out. ABC member.
That's that.
Boop. Go team.
This is more. Disposition is spelled strangely, I guess.
Yes, Bob.
There was something before an 824 review. Hal and I had I did a little research on the 824. And if the commission comes back with a negative report, that's it.
Which commissioner?
Unless the town has spent some money, there's some rules.
Yeah.
But on the reuse of a school, where the town really hasn't spent any money or anything. If the Planning and Zoning Commission doesn't agree with the plan, it's over.
Okay.
So the 824 needs to happen early enough. That because I just saw it a couple of minutes ago.
The 824 needs to happen early enough.
You
Where
can't-
do you think the 824 should happen?
Okay, well, it was,
Okay,
you
but
did some deletion in the
Yes, I
last 5 minutes.
I
And
sure
it was there. Now, I don't know if it's still there or.
tell me in the process where you want it.
It should be probably right after, somewhere after the TOP makes a recommendation, right there. I mean, if P and Z doesn't like it,
How would you have P and Z evaluate a preferred proposal that hasn't been selected?
Yeah, they
by the town council?
can't do a.
Can't do anything until the town council selects a preferred.
no, they did it for the Noack School property on,
But that
mostly
wasn't being sold to somebody, was it?
it was still an 824 review of how the property is going to be used and they disagreed with the town council. They did,
Is that the actual language of 824?
I've expanded it, yeah. Okay, so you can read it. You want to, your copy, you got it memorized.
You can memorize.
Okay, so if you just go down to the first bolded, way down the first bold, in the case of disapproval of the proposal by the commission, the reasons therefore shall be recorded and transmitted to Elizabeth body. A proposal disapproved by the commission shall be adopted by the municipality. And then it goes on to give a why, when that's not true, but it's, yeah, if, let's say, that
Can I read this real quick?
yeah,
Approving an appropriation for any proposal prior to the approval. Failure of the commission to report in 35 days. In the case of the disapproval proposal by the commission. So here's what I would say is this 824 hearing would happen the moment that the town council gives disposition direction to the RFP writing body. That's when I think that this would appropriate
to the one, to the,
to the RFP writing body, right?
yeah, well,
Before,
don't bother writing an RFP until you got this.
Correct.
Yeah.
that's true, because now we've got a whole
Yeah.
direction on what the
Yeah.
intent is.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's actually kind of been short stopped by the TOP process. So it wouldn't come as a surprise.
Yes, you said a TOP should take this into consideration early.
It does say,
That we've already seen it informally.
a proposal disapproved by the commission shall be adopted.
Oh, yeah, once
Okay.
it's adopted.
Yeah,
The town council shall hold a public information meeting to present the report, gather comments. The town council may hold additional public hearings or informational meetings no fewer than blah, blah. Town council decide to sell the property, public hearings per Connecticut General Statute, section 716. 3 shall, and what are we calling it, 864?
8-24.
Section 8-24 shall be conducted regarding the sale of,
P and Z. So, is that-
um,
you want to say that, but that's.
public, well, it just says public hearings per 7-163 and section E-24 shall be conducted regarding the sale of
Yeah.
real municipal sale,
Is the 824 from the charter? Should we state that? Is that, where's that coming from?
from the Connecticut General
Yeah,
Statutes.
general statutes, yeah.
So Connecticut General Sections, section 7. I don't know. if you can see that.
Chapter 126,
Yeah, it's chapter 126. We see up on the screen.
section 824.
It reads, should the town council decide to sell the property, public hearings for Connecticut General Statutes, section 1 and section shall be conducted.
Okay.
My one thing is, 824 isn't just for sale. It's
For a lot of things.
substantially improve, abandon, sell or lease.
Yeah.
Park, playground, school,
Yeah.
or other municipal owned.
Yeah.
So, should the decide to sell, lease, or otherwise substantially improve?
Sell or lease, school or other municipal.
Property. Public hearings per Connecticut. Blah, 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 blah.
Just to expand.
And here's the thing is, if it's not the school property, this wouldn't matter. Right?
Doesn't have to be a school property,
Street, bridge, parkway, public way,
public building,
it could
real
be public
estate.
housing, development, redevelopment, renewal project, then public utilities, terminals for water.
Yeah.
Yep, so this is all encompassing. I think that that's a good fix for your concern. Do you agree? Do you agree? Is it a good fix for your concern?
Yeah, yeah,
Great.
yeah, yeah.
We got 13 minutes left.
Approved minutes.
I motion to approve the minutes.
I'll
for
second.
April 19, May 10.
Freedom.
All right,
Motion has been made by Lauren, seconded by Zod. He beat you, Portia. The time
That's
delay,
okay.
the time delay on Zoom.
That's okay.
Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor of the minutes as presented?
Aye.
Aye. What's we got? 4?
Yeah.
5. 0. Okay, minutes have been approved. Thank you.
so. Just want to think, my manual that I presented to an hour from the beginning. If I finished this, I wouldn't be wasting my time, right?
I would say, I wouldn't call it a manual. I would call it, an overview. I mean, if it's,
Okay, we'll call it something.
we'll call it something. And I think you should constrain what the purpose is. It does to talk about where the community engagement touches in the process.
The purpose is to establish corporate knowledge and repeatable steps. At this level of detail. So that future town councils, future members understand what visioning is. May not,
So you're
may
defining.
not understand, public communication engagement plan. What is that? That should be the language of our workplace, so to speak.
I see.
Okay,
So you're creating kind of like a definitions sheet for some of these words that get used.
and a how-to, and a who does what. I don't know if it's a manual.
Well, I-
Can it be Appendix B as part of this? Does
I
it
call
fit
it
in there?
appendix B, and I don't want you to duplicate work by doing like the how-to if the appendix A and this.
I'll look at
disposition
appendix A.
policy- Yeah, this disposition policy.
Yeah.
And the appendix A are taking care of like
I'll look at
the
appendix A.
physical, does what, when, and how. I would say,
But,
I don't want you to duplicate.
yeah, but I am concerned with specific language like public engagement plan.
What does that mean?
Those words,
Yeah.
that thing,
Yes,
you know. Community requirement section.
Mhm.
That mentality,
yeah, no, that's,
you know,
Especially if it's not specified in Appendix A.
right,
then
yeah,
I think,
Find it.
so here's.
or juice up A.
Yeah, juice up A. Just make it bleed. So for the purposes of what we are doing next, we have our first draft. I can clean it up and ship it around to folks. You want to see it one more time? Are we meeting with them on the 23rd?
That's for this group to decide. I mean, I was hoping to do that. Well, I don't know if it was going to be a meet with them. I think we discussed potentially giving them to them as a draft to review and comment on?
We're not gonna be on the agenda for the 23rd.
Well, that's up to us to discuss and see what they want to do. I mean, is it ready in its form? Yeah. That's what I'm wondering.
As I was saying earlier, is that last time we said, let's just make our way all the way through it and not go back and not tweak the heck.
Yeah.
out of it. Not the time to go through all this. But maybe still kind
So-
of semi-course, Sam. but-
That's fine. When's the next meeting date? Date and time,
The next scheduled one, what are we on, the 17th?
currently on the 17th.
The next scheduled one wouldn't be until June 7th, but we could hold one 31st.
So you want to skip next week?
I can schedule the meeting, but I can't, I have a doctor's thing. I will not be available, but I could schedule the meeting, give my comments in writing, and you guys can meet if you want. I don't want to hold this off if you want to.
We're just
Well, what
We're
date?
polishing.
buffing.
The
24th,
24th you can't make, or
24th can't make, but I think what I'd like to do is if you can send this out to everybody or send it to me and I'll blindside or whatever you do. Everybody come prepare with their minor comments, you're polishing, because I think it's almost there.
and you'll get us what you got?
I'll set it up tonight.
Okay.
So do you want me to set up the 24th?
We'll polish. I'm just thinking what we promised the town council was to give them something in 2 months, was it?
Yes.
So when do you think we can get on their agenda to present this?
It wouldn't be until
We'll
June.
At least one meeting prior to that to plan.
It wouldn't be until June 20th.
So if we miss the 23rd, we don't.
Oh, I'm sorry, June 13th, because there's not another meeting
So the 13th.
until the 13th.
So that's basically an entire month from where we're sitting now to then.
So the 24th
Well, that's what we're trying to decide if we
or the 31st?
can do anything.
I'm not doing anything Saturday. I don't know what you guys are doing. I would hate to push this yet another month.
I'm out of town Saturday.
Yeah.
I
There's
would-
Zoom.
I would prefer to give them something, even if it's a draft and and we're edits, because we did tell them 2 months.
I would like to give them something to say we got it to them within 2 months. And it's at their discretion to put us on a schedule.
Saturday's gonna rain. That'll work for me. 27th?
Well, Saturday is the 20th.
Saturday's the
Oh, the
20th.
20th.
Can we edit? Can we send this out and everybody send edits and make changes to it and then send it? Could I do that? I just don't know legally if I'm allowed to do that.
It's kind of like doing a meeting.
Yeah, you can't do it.
We can't communicate. What we can do is individually edit, send it in, and then have the edits compiled. And then you can do whatever you want with that document. You can either send it to the town council, you can set it up for a meeting agenda.
Well, what are we doing on the 20th if we do?
I was just quoting that, Bob. I don't know if there's buy-in from anybody else.
Well, I'm okay with that. I'm just wondering if that's gonna help, because I think he sends the agenda out for the 23rd. He sends it out on Friday. Isn't that right, Portia? Oh, she dropped. Yeah, I got,
You can make a revised agenda if you need to. He could if you wanted.
well, you want me to work with John Burke to see what we can do, and if we can meet on the 20th and wrap up something better, give them to him.
And if we can't, the 20th, the 21st, the 22nd. I know the 22nd is cutting it because you need a 24-hour. So the 19th, I'm also available. Don't tell my husband I'm making these promises.
We're doing this at your house, right?
I mean, I can do the 19th in the afternoon. I mean, Fridays are.
Yeah.
I mean, you want me to send out a couple dates and stuff to everybody to try to see when people are available?
Sure, especially since we're missing John and
Yeah.
Portia. And Scott.
So
Available on the 20th. So. Standing by.
En route to Philadelphia.
And as long as you put the place, you can meet anywhere. Including a local beverage establishment.
That's true.
well, I'll send out an email. and get different dates. And we could have an hour meeting the 19th, an hour meeting the 20th, you know, if it works for different people. I don't mind putting in the time to wrap this up. So I'll send out, I mean, oh, you can't do it tomorrow, 19th.
Friday the 19th is not gonna be great for me. You're talking at 5:30, Friday,
Friday at any time,
Anytime.
Friday, the 19th, anytime.
anytime.
Well, I'll send out things for the 19th, and 19th, the 20th, and the 21st.
Good for me, 19th is.
You guys respond back to your availability. I'll try to coordinate if we have to have a couple meetings. The goal to try to get something on the 23rd.
So I will save what I have right now and email it out right now, so everyone has it, and then polish, make edits.
And I'll send out the dates tonight, with the goal being we make edits on these simple meetings we have over the next couple of days to try to get something to John Burt for the 22nd.
I'll just send my comments in because I'm definitely incommunicado for them.
Send me your comments. I'll bring them to the meeting. And then, or meetings, and the goal would be to have something on the 23rd, and you guys available 23rd if he is able to put it on the agenda? Because I think that what we'd like to get from the council is broad strokes. Is this in the right direction? And even though we're gonna make it cleaner up, they may say you're down the right path, you're down the wrong path, whatever it is. But at least we will know on the 23rd.
What I like is that we are giving them a document policy, which is what their consternation was last time is, hey, I was looking for like a Word doc, not this
Yes.
PowerPoint.
Yep.
I like that we're doing that. I like that we're potentially giving it to them far enough in advance that they can actually think about it and read it and look at it. I think that it just lends to a more productive discussion. And you would hope that they'd been following along with some of these, where they have the time to think about it and go back to one meetings and listen to the discussion. Because I think every single word that we've decided on, we've debated, and there's a lot of effort and thought that got put into.
Absolutely.
I'm picturing you kind of lead with an advisory committee.
And advisory.
Go make no decisions.
Okay, good. That's everybody good?
Yeah.
I'll send that out. Thank you again for your time. I'll entertain a motion.
Who's to adjourn?
Second.
Been made by Hal, seconded by Bob. You all set?
So they got McBride, Zod, Frink, Bordelon, Westervelt, Goodrich, Larry. And then I'm sending
Larry,
What did you do to yourself?
yeah,
it.
I replaced my shoulder.
Oh, really? With what?
In this
Titanium.
Oh,
Wow. Well, that will last a while.
well, many of us are turning into a $6 million man, so.
Yep. It's supposed to last 20 years. We'll see.
What, 20? Yeah, they got one that's longer. I need one longer than that.
your dog have anything to do with that?
Well, I think over time, maybe, yeah.
We're
Yeah.
still recording, so watch.
Oh, okay.
Motion has been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, any opposed? Motion has been made. Okay, the meeting has been adjourned at what time? 7:59. Thank you. Now we're